He's the director of the developer network at Elsevier. He's going to talk about the developer ecosystem and the partnerships they've been doing for driving innovation.
You know me already.
You're not live.
Yes.
From the beginning. I don't think you want to miss timings either.
Okay, technical leader.
Yep, should be good, yeah.
Thanks, David. So as David introduced me, I'm Vishal Gupta. I've started with Elsevier almost, I think, 4 years back. Was new to publishing then. I'm still new to publishing. Looking at the people on the panel as well as in the audience. My background is mainly around product management and business development. So what I'm going to share today is nothing in technical details. I'm myself very handicapped on the technical front, but some of the work that we have been doing over the last couple of years or maybe even months as a team. And the topic of my talk is collaborative innovation, open platforms, and personalized workflow solutions. Some of the work that we are doing at Elsevier's application marketplace and developer network. So this slide is pretty fascinating. I have this book, an imprint of this. This was printed somewhere, I think, around 4 or 5 centuries back. And this is Galileo's work, the initial work in Latin. And the interesting thing is that Elsevier, or the publishing house that sort of we trace our roots from, published this book way back in 1638. And there were challenges in publishing then. How do you source trusted content? This book of Galileo, there was a talk around that time that Galileo proposed that sun is the center of the universe or the solar system, and that was something, it was thought of as a crazy thought. There were challenges around publishing information. You had the wooden presses, and there were challenges around disseminating information. Some of these challenges still remain. Oops. But things have changed. So looking at how content is published, you had the wooden printing presses, and now some of the speakers before me have talked about digital content, content being marked up in XML and other languages. And the way we consume information as subscribers or users of information has changed from libraries to e-readers and tablets. And the expectations of our users, the customers, the end users, the researchers that we all talk about has also changed. And there's a fundamental shift in the way we communicate. Looking at how this whole conference is positioned, you have global, mobile, social, and apps. So the things, Facebook and other social streams and Twitter and all, they've changed the way we communicate with each other. And one of the things that I really like to talk about is that I send messages to my wife over Facebook. It is so good. We are sitting next to each other on the sofa, but we are communicating through Facebook. So I think fundamentally we as individuals have changed how we communicate. And this changes real time. All of us, be it the users, be it people who are producing content or consuming content, has changed. And nothing by this quote of Charles Darwin that it is the strongest who survive. But people who survive are the ones who are most responsive to change. And this is something that I want to talk in the next couple of minutes about how we at Elsevier have thought about this and how we have transitioned through some of the work that our teams are doing in terms of publication and online information dissemination. And this is a new ecosystem, a new publishing ecosystem. So if you look at the left circle in light blue, this is a traditional publishing model. I think most of the folks here should be aware of it. There's a peer review process, there's an editorial board, you have production, dissemination, and then there are reviews and recognitions like citations and all. And this circle goes on. And what we are proposing at Elsevier, and the stuff that I want to talk about, is a new publishing ecosystem, which is not to replace this, but in the online world with apps as a center of this ecosystem, apps as the new content. And you have the same process if you look at the workflow around the purple circle. It's about publishing apps, disseminating the apps. There could be some reviews like we see on Amazon or Apple, some of the app stores out there. And then there could be either recognition through new metrics or recognition through royalties that could be paid to the developers and some of the partners. This happens to be my favorite slide. I think it's pretty graphic. But looking at the three rectangles on the sides, we have Science Direct, which is Elsevier's platform for full text content, almost 11 million full text articles. Scopus, which is an ANI database, almost 40 million plus records and abstracts. And then the rectangle at the bottom is the third-party content, open content in the web, institutional repositories, web pages, society sources, as well as patent files. And what we are trying to do, and one of the speakers here, I think Damon mentioned about Cyverse, which is sort of representing this slide, which is to connect and make these products interoperable and add information as well as more intelligence to the content by using applications or workflow solutions. And I just because I'll be using this word app and apps and application, and this is a common lingo that we use nowadays, but application should not be thought of as a 99-cent application on an iPhone or a BlackBerry. Maybe BlackBerry is dead now. But these are workflow solutions. Some of them are productivity tools, but also domain-specific solutions, and I'm going to talk a little bit about them. So this is the application gallery that we launched last year. It's very similar. It's a pretty simple interface. It's very similar to the apps stores that you have seen. And the URL is applications.cyverse.com. You have some featured applications. You have a small filter on the left that you can search for applications and look at applications. And the neat thing about this, which I like, is that these applications are embedded into the workflow. So if you're reading an article, and I'll show you some examples, the applications are in the context and embedded within the workflow. And then you see, I think 3 applications, sort of a drop down. It's actually a list of applications which are on the gallery. And this is the developer portal, developers.elsevier.com. And this is where we have some information, documentation, some sample codes, as well as links to not links, but you can request an API key or register a project to get started with applications. So 2 things that I want to focus on, maybe 3 things. The first is domain specificity is the future of research tools. Now this is a screenshot of one of our competitors, Nature. They have a lipidomics gateway. So essentially, there's a database of lipid structures. And what we have tried to do with these, there's a society which maintains this database. And this is, in the green box, is a snapshot of an article. And you see the further green boxes like lauric acid and linoleic acid. These are some of the fatty acids or lipids which are highlighted through a text mining service within the data, within a full text article. And I think the goal of this initiative is pretty simple, that how do you connect data in the right context. And what we have tried to do with using our APIs and other developer services is to link with the external database and provide that as a supplementary information, but as a rich contextual information right within the workflow of a researcher. So if you're reading an article and you want to know more about, which is what I think the researchers do, understanding the lipid structures in details, or this is one example of how you can provide. And if somebody is working in lipids or the related areas in biochemistry, etc., this is a easy way that you don't have to go outside your workflow to look at information. Likewise, Feb's letters, and you see the green box on the top right hand side. There are certain proteins which are mentioned here, and then what are the different interactions within the proteins. So we have integrated that. I think it's a sort of a 2D simulation model of how these protein structures, and you can zoom it and zoom out. And likewise, there are certain analysis tools. This is the genome browser. You're looking at certain gene sequences. And again, my basic sciences is pretty weak, so just forgive me if there are biochemists or molecular biologists here. I may not be making sense here, but I'm just trying to explain that. But essentially, within the context of this article, there are certain genomes which are mentioned. If I'm making sense there, and mainly the researchers, they go to different genome browsers that they relate information to. And what we have done is the USSC genome browser. It has been integrated. It's been developed in partnership with USSC, and this is sort of an analysis tool that could be used within your workflow. And likewise, other examples. This is an NCBI gene sequence database which has been linked within the article. So you see the abstract on top, and then this is linked there, so you can look for more information as well as search for relevant information there. And again, I think the idea is, what I started by saying, is to have it contextual information. So this is a search results page, if you see within in the center. So you have different search results starting from serial number 25 to 28. And at the bottom right corner is an application called Quantifind, which basically does a lot of, uses your keyword search and converts into data that is available within those articles. Here it's, the search results page, and maps that data. So this could be used like, if you're looking for temperature, so Celsius or Fahrenheit are the different data terms there, and it extracts those terms and plots them. And this application has been developed by a third-party developer at a small startup in the Silicon Valley. But essentially, the data that is there in that chart there is summarized from the search results, and this could be integrated within full text articles or the content that you're looking at. And I think one of the goals here that we have is that we want to open it up to third-party developers, academic institutions, research labs, startup companies for innovation. This is sort of a full screenshot of Quantifind application, something that I showed in the previous bottom right corner as a small window. And essentially, the other thing that I want to talk about is collaborating with the scientific community. So we have these applications, some of them we have developed internally, but essentially what we believe is that the researchers, they understand the problems better than we do. And if they are able to collaborate with developers or within their teams and come up with them content as well as some tools and services, I think that's where it's going to be a win-win situation. And this is a snapshot of some of the partners that we have partnered with. So, the top rectangle is academic institutions. It's a very small representation here of what we have done or what we have been able to partner with. But it's pretty global in nature. And, there's some commercial companies, mainly a lot of startup companies that we have partnered with to build some of these or develop some of these applications or workflow tools. And this is one quote. The only thing that I want to highlight is, in the bold, that it's a new era for global scientific collaboration. A researcher at the University of Melbourne in Australia, and we have been working with them to collaborate on certain applications. But essentially, fundamentally, I think what we believe as a team and within the company is that, it summarizes on this slide that none of us is as smart as all of us, and this leads to, I think, this is one of the common books that we have already seen, The Power of Crowdsourcing. So what we feel is that we can do certain things on our own, and as I said earlier, that the researchers, they understand their problems better than we do, and if we are able to collaborate with them, provide them the right tools, the right services, then I think it could be creating this new ecosystem and broadening this. So this is a collage of some of the developer events that we did last year. This was in 2011. We did a couple of hackathons, online challenges, and working with researchers and students and early career researchers, some developers, startup companies. And this was this picture is pretty global. And we also launched an Apps for Science challenge. This was an online challenge. And the reason I want to actually highlight something here is this particular application in green that I just heard of talk. I was looking at the Twitter feeds for this conference, Altmetric, and I believe we also have folks from Altmetric here. And this was one of the winners of this application, and this was integrated in the platform last year, so this is available. And again, I think for those of you who are not familiar with what Altmetric does, it basically gives you an article level metrics based on how one particular article is cited in the social media, on the document readers, as well as on blogs, and does some kind of a qualitative measure of those articles as well. So essentially, partnering with folks who are working on some of these new things, which is also in some ways threat to the publishing world. And then ChemDetect, this was also sourced from the Apps for Science challenge, one of the winners there. This application is on the right hand side. So essentially what it does is that it detects what are the different chemicals. I searched for benzene. That was the chemical that I searched for. It's highlighted in yellow in the article header. And there were 5 chemical structures related to benzene which were in the article. And now you can download this as a PDF or a PNG file and use that. So essentially making it more interactive, adding more content at the time that within the researcher's workflow. So I think that's the whole idea. And then I'll just skip through this. I believe I'm just shooting over time. These are some of the events that we had done last year. In Canada, in China, and this is what we are running right now in India. We're calling it Code for Science. That's an online event mainly targeting students and early career researchers. But essentially what we believe is that if we are able to empower the community, if we are able to partner or crowdsource and provide the right tools and the right services, I think that's where we believe that's the core of this ecosystem and the thinking behind it. And this is one of the logos. I think over the last couple of months, it's been distorted in many ways, with the cost of knowledge and other initiatives. I'm not going to talk about that, but this has been there at least before I joined the company. But what we are proposing is a new ecosystem within Elsevier also, application marketplace and developer network. So you have the developers, we provide you the APIs and the key to the content, and you could create applications, sort of the fruits on the trees, and that could really benefit, this whole ecosystem. And last but not the least, some folks who are behind this initiative. My name is also there somewhere there. There's a core team as well as some folks on the strategy side, the technology side, and marketing. And there are many more people behind this, and I think some of them are present in this conference as well. So thank you.